Her laughter was warm and comforting, like a cozy blanket. Mabel Lawson was the grandmother everyone loved, the heart of her family, and the town's favorite person. Her apple pies won prizes at the county fair. Her hugs made everything feel better, and people always went to her for advice. Watching her work in her garden, her hands covered in dirt as she hummed a song, was a peaceful sight. Kids loved her, neighbors respected her. She was the kind of person you could trust without thinking twice. But behind that friendly smile and sparkle in her eyes, there were whispers. Strange things happened. People disappeared, and there were questions no one could answer. For years, those whispers hung in the air, quiet but always there. No one wanted to believe they could be about Mabel, the woman who gave you cookies and waved hello to everyone. As time went on, the whispers faded, but they never went away. There were stories about husbands who disappeared, friends who got sick for no reason, and moments when Mabel's smile would fade, just for a second, showing something else, something colder, something that didn't fit with the sweet, cheerful Mabel everyone knew. When the truth finally came out, it was more shocking than anyone could have guessed. Mabel Lawson wasn't just the kind grandmother or the town's sweetheart. She was someone who had hidden her darkest secrets right in front of everyone. Secrets so terrifying they would change the way people saw her forever. Mabel Lawson was everything you'd picture in a grandmother from a small-town America. She always had a pie cooling on the windowsill and a warm greeting for anyone who passed by. In her neighborhood, she wasn't just a friendly face, she was a part of the fabric of the town, a calming presence in a world that often felt uncertain. People admired her strength, grace, and unwavering dedication to her family. She made you believe in the goodness of people. But, as with all things that seemed too perfect, there were cracks. Small ones at first, hardly noticeable. Mabel was born in the early 1930s, in a time when roles were set and expectations were clear. In her small town, life was simple and the future was laid out early. She married young, just like everyone else. She raised children, kept a spotless home, and attended church every Sunday. From the outside, she was the perfect housewife, mother, and neighbor. Yet, even in those early years, there were whispers. Her first marriage, though it seemed happy, ended suddenly. Neighbors remembered hushed arguments and a sense of unease they couldn't explain. Then there was her second husband, whose death was chalked up to natural causes. But looking back, there were questions no one dared ask. After all, who would suspect Mabel, sweet, smiling Mabel? Her life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Behind the lace curtains of her pristine home, Mabel was hiding a secret. She was having an affair with a man who was everything her world told her she couldn't have, a man who some say sparked the darker side of her nature. It was this affair that slowly began to shift Mabel's image from the loving grandmother to something far more dangerous. The warmth in her smile, the cheerfulness in her laugh, they were still there, but they started to feel like a mask hiding a woman capable of unspeakable things. As time went on, the whispers grew. Friends who visited her home seemed to disappear. Husbands who trusted her never saw her betrayal coming. And those who got too close to the truth, they didn't live long enough to tell anyone. So, how does someone like Mabel Lawson, beloved, trusted, admired, become a killer? What turns a woman from baking cookies for the neighborhood to committing murder? These were the questions that haunted everyone who knew her, and when the answers finally came, they were far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. Mabel Lawson's world was a carefully built illusion, one that began to crack as her secrets and desires grew too heavy to hide. Her affair, though passionate and forbidden, was the thread that threatened to unravel everything. But Mabel wasn't ready to let her perfect life fall apart. She took drastic steps to make sure no one would ever uncover the truth. Her first victim was her husband. He had once been her partner in life and love, but over time he became an obstacle to the life she wanted. Mabel chose arsenic untraceable, just like her cold intentions. One evening she handed him a glass of his favorite drink, smiling warmly as he took it. Moments later, as he collapsed, clutching his chest, she sat calmly by, her face unreadable. To everyone else, she was the grieving widow, her sorrow a sign of her love. But behind closed doors, she was already planning her next move. As her affair grew stronger, so did the complications. Her lover became more demanding, and the lies she told to cover up their relationship started to pile up. Anyone who knew the truth became a threat, and Mabel knew exactly how to handle threats. Her neighbors, once her biggest admirers, began to disappear. The first was a kind man who lived down the street. He'd always been friendly, stopping by for tea and chats. But one evening, as they sat together, he suddenly became ill. Mabel, ever the caring hostess, offered to call for help, but it was too late. By the time anyone arrived, he was gone. The cause of death was listed as heart failure, but whispers about something more sinister started to spread. Then there was the woman from church, a friend who had gotten too curious about Mabel's life. She too accepted an invitation for tea, never suspecting that Mabel had poisoned her drink. By the time anyone suspected foul play, Mabel had perfected her act. She was the grieving friend, the supportive neighbor, always at the center of tragedy but never the cause. What made Mabel's crimes even more chilling was her ability to manipulate everyone around her. She wasn't just a killer, she was a master at deflecting suspicion, crafting stories that made her look innocent. The pies she baked for grieving families, the casseroles she brought to community events, these were all part of her act, keeping people close while hiding her dark secrets. For years, her charm kept her safe from suspicion, but as the bodies piled up, so did the whispers. A pattern began to form, one no one wanted to believe. Could Mabel Lawson, the beloved grandmother, really be capable of such horror? It took years for the police to start putting the pieces together. When they did, the truth was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. The sweet grandmother, everyone thought they knew, was hiding a darkness so deep it left everyone wondering how they'd missed it. Mabel Lawson's carefully crafted world of deception began to unravel with a single unexpected phone call. An anonymous tip to the authorities ignited an investigation that would expose years of hidden crimes. For decades, Mabel had skillfully deflected suspicion with her charm and the image of endless kindness she had built. But this time, there was no escape. When investigators arrived at her modest home, they were greeted by the same welcoming facade. Mabel offered them tea, her demeanor as warm as the grandmotherly figure she had worked so hard to perfect. But as they searched her kitchen, they found something far darker. Hidden among the shelves were traces of arsenic, the poison that had been her weapon of choice. Forensic experts linked the substance to the deaths of several victims, finally providing the evidence that had eluded authorities for so long. The courtroom was packed on the day of Mabel's trial. Neighbors, friends, and family members filled the seats, their disbelief hanging heavy in the air. How could the woman they had trusted, admired, and even loved be capable of such horrific acts? As the evidence was presented, the chilling truth became undeniable. Mabel Lawson, the woman who had baked pies for grieving families and hosted countless neighborhood gatherings, was a cold-blooded killer. Throughout the trial, Mabel maintained her composure. Her serene expression never faltered, even as witness after witness recounted their tragic losses. Her smile, once a source of comfort, now felt unnerving, a reminder of the mask she had worn for so long. When the verdict was read, convicting her of multiple murders, she simply nodded, as if acknowledging a truth she had long accepted. The aftermath of Mabel's crimes left an indelible mark on the community. The once close-knit, trusting neighborhood was forever altered. The woman they had affectionately called the Giggling Granny became a chilling, cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even the most innocent-seeming people can harbor the darkest of secrets. But even with Mabel behind bars, questions remained. What drove her to commit these unspeakable acts? Was it the affair, a desperate attempt to preserve a life she could never truly have? Was it the need for control, a way to exert power in a world that had so often dictated her choices? Or was it something deeper, something darker, that even Mabel herself couldn't fully understand? Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any jaw-dropping true crime stories like this one. Now, think about this. If you believe Mabel should never have been allowed to walk free, hit that subscribe button. But if you think there might have been something deeper at play, something that could explain her actions, maybe hold off for now. What do you think drove Mabel to commit these crimes? Was it love, desperation, or something darker? Share your thoughts in the comments below. On the surface, like an open book. Born in the 1930s, a time when women were expected to be devoted wives and mothers, she married young, had children, and quickly became a beloved figure in her community. Her early life appeared straightforward, a quiet upbringing, a traditional marriage, and what seemed like an idyllic existence in a close-knit neighborhood. But as investigators later uncovered, Mabel's charm hid a much darker truth. She used arsenic, a poison often dubbed inheritance powder in historical domestic murder cases, to eliminate those who stood in her way. Among her victims were her husband, 2 neighbors, and even a close friend. The chilling common thread? Mabel was always in a position of care or hospitality, offering her victims food or drink laced with poison. While the facts of her crimes are horrifying, the why behind them remains a mystery. Some experts suggest Mabel's actions may have been driven by deep frustration with societal constraints, a need for control, or even psychological issues that went undiagnosed. Others speculate that her forbidden affair might have played a role, pushing her to silence anyone who could expose her secrets. Crimes shattered the lives of those closest to her and left a permanent scar on an entire community. Families lost loved ones in a way no one could have foreseen. Neighbors who once trusted her, calling her a friend, were left reeling from the revelation that the woman they had known for years was, in fact, a cold-blooded killer. The emotional toll of Mabel's actions rippled far beyond the immediate victims. The families left behind struggled to comprehend how someone so seemingly kind-hearted could commit such atrocities. The children of Mabel's victims were haunted by the realization that their loved ones had been taken from them, not by illness or accident, but by someone they had trusted, someone they had welcomed into their homes. The trauma created by Mabel's actions spread throughout the community, leaving a collective wound that would take years to heal, if it ever did. On a psychological level, Mabel's motivations remain complex and difficult to unravel. Her affair with a local man could have sparked a sense of desperation, pushing her to eliminate anyone who could expose her secret. Yet there may have been deeper, more intricate psychological factors at play. Feelings of powerlessness, frustration, and perhaps even a sense of entitlement to the life she wanted, regardless of the cost. Was it love? Was it a desperate need for control? Or was it simply the result of a mind distorted by years of living behind a perfect facade? Experts have speculated that Mabel's life, steeped in societal pressures and the stifling expectations placed on women of her time, might have played a significant role in her eventual breakdown. What makes Mabel's case particularly chilling is her ability to maintain the illusion of normalcy. She wasn't a monster lurking in plain sight. Instead, she was the grandmother who hosted tea parties, the neighbor who baked pies, the sweet, kind-winged woman everyone trusted. Her ability to mask her true nature under layers of charm and warmth speaks to the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary people. This duality forces us to confront unsettling questions about the ease with which people can hide their darkest impulses, especially when society expects them to be perfect. Mabel's ability to maintain a flawless image while secretly committing murder reveals a terrifying truth. Sometimes, the greatest dangers come from the places we least expect. The trust the community placed in her wasn't just shattered, it was weaponized against them. Her skill in deceiving everyone around her is a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving and that evil can hide in the most unexpected places. Mabel's story forces us to confront the unsettling reality that those capable of unimaginable acts often do so with a smile. The psychological complexity behind her crimes is what makes her case so disturbing, not just the murders themselves, but the hidden malice concealed in plain sight. Mabel's tale is a stark reminder that evil can exist in the most unsuspecting of forms, and sometimes the ones we least suspect are the most dangerous. Mabel Lawson's case serves as a haunting reminder that appearances can be deceiving. The sweetest smile, the warmest hugs, and the most comforting presence can all mask the darkest secrets. Mabel, the beloved grandmother, became a chilling example of how trust can be manipulated and how evil can thrive beneath a carefully constructed facade. The woman who seemed so harmless was capable of horrors beyond imagination, and her story continues to shock and disturb. As we reflect on her twisted tale, one question lingers. What would you do if someone close to you was hiding a deadly secret? Could you recognize the signs, or would you be blinded by their charm? Let that question haunt you as you consider the truth behind the Giggling Granny, a woman who could kill with a smile, leaving a trail of devastation in her wake. Thank you for watching. If you found this story chilling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping true crime tales.